Today, I'm going to tell you the story about Jonah and the big fish. Now the word of the Lord came to Jonah, saying, "Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and pronounce the Lord's judgment against them, for their evil has come up before me." But Jonah rose to flee to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. In other words, he went the other way. And he found a ship going to Tarshish, and paid the fare, and went to Tarshish anyway, away from the presence of the Lord. But the Lord hurled a great wind upon the sea, and there was a mighty storm on the sea, so that the ship was about to break into pieces. Then the sailors were afraid, and each one of them cried out to his God. They hurled the cargo that was in the ship into the sea to lighten it. But Jonah was fast asleep down inside the ship. So the captains came and said to him, "What's with you, you sleepyhead? Arise, call to your God. Perhaps your God will help us, that we might not perish." And when they were all together, they said to one another, "Come, let us cast lots, that we might know on whose account this evil has come upon us." So they cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. Then they said to Jonah, "Why has this evil come upon us? What do you do for a living? Where do you come from? Of what people are you?" And Jonah said to them, "I am a Hebrew, and I fear the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." And then the men were so afraid and said to him, "What is this that you have done?" For the men knew that he was fleeing from the presence of the Lord, because he had told them. Then they said to him, "What shall we do to you, that the sea might quieten down?" For the sea grew even more tempestuous. And he said to them, "Pick me up and throw me into the sea, and then the sea will quiet down for you. For I know it is because of me that this great storm has come upon you." But the sailors didn't want to do that, and so they rowed all the more harder to try and get back to dry land. But they could not, for the sea grew more and more tempestuous against them. And so they called out to the Lord, "O Lord, let us not perish for this man's life, and lay not on us innocent blood, for you, O Lord, have done as it pleased you." So they picked up Jonah and hurled him into the sea. And the sea ceased from raging. The men feared the Lord exceedingly, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows. And the Lord appointed a great fish to swallow up Jonah. And Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. And then finally Jonah prayed to the Lord his God from the belly of the fish. And the Lord spoke to the fish, and the fish vomited Jonah up onto dry land. Well, you can hardly imagine what a sight he must have been after being in the fish for 3 days. Then the word of the Lord came to Jonah a second time, saying, "Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and pronounce the judgment of the Lord against them, and call out against it the message that I tell you." So Jonah arose and went to Nineveh according to the word of the Lord. And he called out, "Yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown." And the people of Nineveh believed God, and they called for a fast, and put on sackcloth from the greatest of them to the least of them. Even on the animals they put sackcloth. And when God saw what they did and how they turned from their evil ways, God had compassion on them and waived the judgment. And God relented of the disaster that he said he would do to them, and he did not do it. Well, I guess the moral of this story is that God is present even in the uttermost parts of the sea, even in the belly of the fish. He is the creator and the Lord of the sea. We cannot run away from his presence. And God wanted to show mercy to the people of Nineveh, even though Jonah didn't want him to. And we can learn from this that we can always trust God, that he knows what's best. Thanks for listening to today's story, and come back for another story next Sunday.